Sometimes love doesn't shout. Sometimes it doesn't warn you, it just stands in front of you, looks into your eyes, and says something so simple, so honest that the entire world inside you goes silent. She said something and I froze, not because I was weak, not because I was weak, not because I didn't care, but because her words didn't just touch my ears. They touched my soul. You ever experienced that moment? When the person you love says a sentence that changes the gravity of your heart, and suddenly you're not breathing the same, you're not thinking the same, you're not the same man you were 5 seconds ago. Love has that power. One sentence from her, and your walls crumble. Your pride disappears. Your ego steps aside. Because when love speaks truth, a real man listens. In that moment, music, I wasn't frozen by fear. I was frozen by the weight of her honesty, by the depth of her vulnerability, by the realization that love isn't about control, it's about courage. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stand still, feel everything, and let her words change you. Music. Tonight, I want to talk about that moment, that second, when she said something and I froze. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because love demanded that I become a better man before I spoke. She said something and I froze. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. There were no tears falling in slow motion, no music playing in the background. It was just her voice, soft, honest, real, and somehow that made it heavier than anything I had ever heard. In that moment, time didn't slow down, it stopped. Music. I remember looking at her, trying to understand how a few simple words could carry so much weight, how a sentence so gently spoken could shake a man who thought he was strong. I had faced challenges, I had faced losses, I had walked through storms without flinching. But this was different. Because when love speaks truth, it doesn't attack your strength, it reveals your heart. She wasn't accusing me. She wasn't trying to win an argument. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She just spoke her truth. And when someone you love is brave enough to speak their truth, you don't fight it, you feel it. And I felt everything. I felt the parts of me I had ignored, the fears I had buried, the insecurities I had hidden behind confidence, the silent doubts I never admitted to anyone. Her words didn't create those things, they exposed them. That's why I froze, not because I didn't have something to say, but because for the first time, I realized my usual words wouldn't be enough. My charm wouldn't fix it. My silence wouldn't protect me. My silence wouldn't protect me. My pride wouldn't save me. Love doesn't negotiate with ego, it demands honesty. When she said what she said, I saw myself from her eyes, and that is a powerful thing. To see yourself reflected in someone who loves you, to realize that the way you speak, the way you show up, the way you protect or fail to protect, it all matters deeply to someone else. I thought I understood responsibility. I thought being present meant being physically there. I thought love was about providing, about staying loyal, about not leaving. But love is also about providing, about staying loyal, about not leaving. But love is also about listening. It's about noticing the pause before she tells you she needs more from you. It's about recognizing that strength isn't just about standing tall, but about kneeling down and admitting you were wrong. When she spoke, I realized something painful. I realized that sometimes, without meaning to, we hurt the people we love the most. Not with betrayal, not with cruelty, but with distance, with distraction, with the quiet assumption that they will always understand. She said something that made me question whether I had been truly present, whether I had been loving her in the way she needed or just in the way I knew how. And that question, that's what froze me. Because a real man doesn't want to fail the woman he loves. He doesn't want to be the reason her smile fades. He doesn't want to be the reason she hesitates before opening her heart. He doesn't want to be the reason she hesitates before opening her heart. He doesn't want to be the lesson she learns about settling. In that silence, I felt small, not weak, aware that love is fragile, aware that words matter, aware that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop defending yourself and start understanding yourself and start understanding her. I could have responded quickly. I could have justified myself. I could have said, "You're overthinking." I could have shifted the blame. It would have been easy. But easy is not love. Love is standing in that uncomfortable silence and letting it shape you. Love is allowing her truth to touch the parts of you that need growth. Love is choosing not to react from pride, but to respond from humility. As I stood there, frozen, I realized that this moment was a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. I saw the man I was, and I saw the man I needed to become. Sometimes we think love is about grand gestures, buying gifts, making promises, saying beautiful words under the moonlight, and those things are wonderful. But the real test of love is what you do when your heart is challenged. When she said what she said, I understood that love is not just about being admired, it's about being accountable. It's about asking yourself, have I been the safe place she deserves? Have I made her feel heard? Have I made her feel chosen, not just claimed? Have I made her feel valued, not just wanted saw? These questions don't feel comfortable. They don't boost your ego. They don't boost your ego. They don't make you feel powerful. They make you human. And humanity is where real love lives. I froze because I cared. If I didn't care, I would music, have brushed it off. If I didn't love her, I would have walked away emotionally. But I stayed in that silence because she mattered. And when someone matters, you don't rush your response. You measure it. You weigh it against your heart. You make sure it's honest. Her words didn't break me, they refined me. They forced me to confront the gap between intention and impact. I may have intended to love her deeply, but if she felt unseen, then my intention wasn't enough. Love is not judged by what you mean, it is judged by what the other person feels. That realization is humbling. In that frozen moment, I understood that growth begins where defensiveness ends. I stopped preparing my argument. I stopped building my case. I stopped trying to win, because in love, winning an argument can mean losing the connection. And I didn't want to lose her, so I let the silence stretch. I let my pride dissolve. I let her words echo inside me until they found the truth. She wasn't asking for perfection. She was asking for presence. She wasn't demanding more money, more gifts, more promises. She was asking for more of me, my attention, my vulnerability, my emotional courage. That's harder than anything material. It's easy to protect. It's harder to admit you're scared. It's easy to say, I love you. It's harder to admit you're scared. It's easy to say, I love you. It's harder to show it in the small daily ways that matter. When I finally spoke, it wasn't with power, it wasn't with dominance, it was with softness, music. Because love doesn't respond to truth with aggression, it responds with growth. I told her I heard her, and this time I meant it differently, not as a phrase to move forward, but as a promise to do better. That frozen moment became a turning point, not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. And honesty is the foundation of love that lasts. We all want to be strong. We all want to be strong. We all want to be respect, you music. But the strongest men are the ones who can stand still when their heart is exposed and say, I can grow. She said something, and I froze. And in that stillness, I found a deeper version of myself. She said something, and I froze. Not because I was confused, not because I didn't understand the words. I understood them perfectly. That was the problem. They were clear, direct, honest, and honesty is a way of entering your chest without knocking first. In that moment, I felt the air shift between us. There's a silence that comes from not knowing what to say. And then there's a silence that comes from realizing what you should have been doing all along. The second one is heavier. It doesn't just sit in the room, it sits inside you. She looked at me with eyes that weren't angry, just tired. Not tired of me, but tired of feeling unseen in small ways. And when the person you love looks at you like that, something inside you pauses. Your defenses don't rise, they fall. I always believed strength meant staying steady, being the rock, the one who doesn't shake, the one who absorbs pressure without showing cracks. But love doesn't ask you to be unbreakable, it asks you to be reachable. And I realized maybe I had been strong in all the wrong ways. When she spoke, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse me of failing her. She simply said how she felt. And feelings, real feelings, they don't need volume to be powerful. She told me she needed more presence, more attention, more reassurance. Not because she was insecure, but because love needs maintenance. Even the strongest bond needs care. And I froze because I thought I was already giving enough. Isn't that the quiet trap in relationships? We think love is understood. We think our intentions are obvious. We assume the other person can feel what we don't always show. But love is not a mind reader, music. Love is deliberate. It's in the way you put your phone down when she's talking. It's in the way you remember small details she mentioned weeks ago. It's in the way you notice when her energy changes and you ask why instead of waiting for her to explain. She said something simple. She said she sometimes feels alone, even when I'm right there. And that sentence hit deeper than any criticism ever could, because I never wanted to be the reason she felt alone. I thought being physically present meant I was doing my part. I thought loyalty and commitment were the ultimate proof of love. And they matter deeply, but they are the foundation, not the full structure. You can be loyal and still be distant. You can be committed and still be distracted. You can love someone and still fail to make them feel loved. That realization doesn't destroy you, it awakens you. I felt devoted. She sometimes felt disconnected. I felt protective. She sometimes felt unheard, Love is not about what you feel alone. It's about what you create together. And in that frozen second, I understood something powerful. Freezing is not weakness. It is awareness, arriving all at once. My heart wasn't shutting down. It was opening too fast. I wanted to respond immediately, to explain that I work hard, that I carry responsibilities, that I think about her constantly, that my silence doesn't mean absence, but explanations are often defenses, dressed as logic. She didn't need logic. She needed connection. I realized something about pride that night. Pride can make you defend yourself even when no one is attacking you. Pride can make you justify instead of listen. Pride convince you that admitting you need to grow is the same as admitting you failed. That love doesn't measure you by your mistakes. It measures you by your willingness to evolve. So I stayed quiet a little longer, not because I had nothing to say, but because I wanted my response to come from understanding, not from fear. There's something sacred about the moment you choose. Humility over ego. It feels uncomfortable at first. Your chest tightens. Your mind searches for escape. But then something softer begins to rise. Something honest. I ask myself a simple question. If she feels this way, even a little, then what can I do differently? Not what can she change, not what excuses I can offer, but what can I improve? This love is not about being perfect. It's about being responsive. She didn't ask me to become someone else. She asked me to show up more as the man she believes I can be. And when someone believes in your higher version, that's not pressure. That's trust. Trust that you're capable of more depth. Trust that you can hold space for her emotions without shrinking. Trust that you can listen without turning it into a debate. In that moment, I saw how often we confuse silence with peace. Just because there's no argument doesn't mean there's connection. Just because she isn't complaining doesn't mean she's fulfilled. Sometimes the strongest relationships are not loud, they are quiet. But quiet doesn't mean inactive, it means attentive. It means attentive. She said she missed the way I used to look at her, the way I used to ask about her day and actually wait for the answer, the way I used to send small messages just to remind her she was on my mind. And I realized I hadn't stopped loving her. I had just become comfortable. Comfort can be beautiful. It feels safe, familiar, warm, but if you're not careful, comfort turns into complacency. And complacency slowly steals the magic you once protected fiercely. Freezing in that moment was my heart, refusing to ignore the truth. The way I paid attention to every word she said, the way I paid attention to every word she said, the way I noticed her favorite songs, her fears, her dreams. I used to ask deeper questions. You said to be curious. Somewhere along the way, routine replaced intention, and routine is not the enemy. But intention must remain. She didn't want a grand apology. She didn't want dramatic change overnight. She wanted effort, consistent, visible effort. Love is built in small, repeated actions. It's built in the decision to turn toward her instead of away when you're tired. It's built in the choice to communicate instead of withdraw. It's built in the courage to say, you're right, I can do better. That night, I learned that freezing is sometimes the soul's way of preventing you from speaking too soon. If I had reacted quickly, I might have minimized her feelings. I might have said something careless, but that stillness forced me to reflect. Reflection is powerful. It separates reaction from response. And in love, response is everything. When I finally spoke, I didn't defend myself. I thanked her. I thanked her for trusting me enough to tell me the truth. I thanked her for not letting silent resentment grow. I thanked her for believing our connection was worth improving. Her eyes softened, not because I was perfect, but because I was present. Presence is the real currency of love. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You either give it fully or you don't. I realized that transformation in a relationship doesn't begin with dramatic gestures. It begins with small awareness. It begins with noticing when she feels distant. It begins with asking, how can I love you better? It begins with understanding that growth doesn't threaten your masculinity. It strengthens it. A strong man is not the one who never freezes. He's the one who uses that frozen moment to realign himself. There's beauty in realizing you still have room to improve. There's beauty in knowing love can deepen instead of fade. She said something and I froze. But in that stillness, I made a silent promise to myself to listen more than I speak, to ask more than I assume. Music, to show love in ways that are visible, not just felt internally, to protect her heart, not just from the world, but from my neglect. Love is not static. It either grows or it weakens, and growth requires attention. Since that day, I pay closer attention to the details, the subtle shifts in her tone, the quiet moments when she needs reassurance but doesn't want to beg for it, the small opportunities to express gratitude, because love thrives where effort lives. Freezing taught me patience. It taught me that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pause and truly hear the person in front of you. It taught me that vulnerability is not dramatic. It is gentle, it is consistent. It is choosing honesty over comfort. And maybe that's what transformation really looks like. Not a loud declaration, not a sudden reinvention, but a quiet decision to be better every day because someone's heart is in your hands.